Hello and welcome to a weekend news episode of the Leveraging AI podcast, the podcast that shares practical, ethical ways to improve efficiency, grow your business, and advance your career. This is Isar Meitis, your host. And this week was relatively slow from big AI crazy news like we got used to in the past few months. But it actually gives us time to do a serious deep dive into AI in jobs because there were a few very interesting articles about it this week. One of them very positive, at least in concept. I don't fully agree with its positive projections, and a lot of other inputs related to jobs. We also have some interesting news about OpenAI, some new releases, and in the end, we're going to cover a research done by Harvard Business Review, ROI of AI implementation in enterprises and businesses, based on a very broad survey that they did, which I find very interesting. So lots to talk about, like every week, just not crazy releases and stuff like that. So let's get started. And I'm going to start with the positive or the conceptually positive news coming from an article on the New York Times that has covered 22 new types of jobs that are going to be created to support the AI revolution. So the premise behind this article is that yes, AI is going to take away many jobs, but it is going to create many others. And they were trying to find relevant jobs that are either already happening or that will start happening in the near future in support of AI implementation in businesses. First time I say that I'm excited to see a serious magazine, a large company that is followed by millions of people, take this seriously and start moving in that direction and starting to explore what the future might look like. I think it is very, very important. The flip side, and I will dive more into the detail afterwards, I think the job that they've done is not deep enough and is making a lot of assumptions that are not necessarily true. But let's start diving into what they shared. So first of all, if we categorize the types of new jobs they're referring to, they can be categorized into three main topics: trust, integration, and taste. So trust meaning, how do we make sure as humans that whatever the AI generates is legitimate and accurate so the company or the person can actually stand behind them? The second one is integration. There is a lot of integration happening in order to allow AI access in a safe way to different systems and develop new processes and so on. And so that's very obvious. And the third one is taste, which I actually really like. And I'm going to dive more into that so you'll understand better what I mean. But I'm going to start with a profound statistics that is found in this article. And they're quoting Anish Raman, who's the Chief Economic Opportunity Officer at LinkedIn. And he's saying that based on what they're seeing and based on their research, 70% of job skills will change by 2030. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. 70% of skills will change in the next 5 years. Now, what I will add on my end is that it's not going to happen in 5 years. It's happening now and it's going to roll out through the next 5 years. It's already happening. So a lot of the skills that were crucial for many companies and many jobs and in many industries are changing right in front of our eyes. Now, based on the World Economic Forum 2025 Future of Jobs report, AI will displace 9 million jobs by 2030 and create 11 million new jobs. I don't believe this is an accurate statistics. Again, I'm just me, and the World Economic Forum is a much larger and very respectable group, but I will explain in a minute why I think they are wrong. But let's continue. So the first topic, as I mentioned, is trust. They believe that every company will require AI auditors, translators, trust-related roles, basically a human that takes responsibility for the output of the AI. And that makes perfect sense, right? We all know AI hallucinates. We all know these tools don't always provide accurate information. And that may true for facts. This may true for ethics. This may true for legal issues. This may true for different aspects of the business that has to do with a company has to stand behind the products, the content, the communication that it generates, and people will be in charge of that. And they're quoting the head of the Stanford Digital Economy Lab, who said there should be a human who ultimately takes responsibility. And again, I agree with the concept and I completely agree it's a necessity right now, but I see three serious flaws with the way they approach this. One, I believe that AI will hallucinate less and less, meaning the need to actually verify the outputs of AI will decline and our ability to control the language, the tone, the concepts that it shares on our behalf are accurate and aligned with what we want. So I believe that very much. Two, which is more important, I believe AI will produce significantly more of everything than what we are producing today, whether that's research, content, code, or even physical goods with the assistance of AI and robotics. And so there aren't enough humans on the planet to go through and verify all that information. Because if I can generate one article a day right now, and AI can generate 100, I cannot review 100 articles a day. If I'm going to have an army of agents doing all the communication on behalf of my company, both internal and external, there are not enough humans in the company to monitor all of that. So it's just flawed from just the scalability of issues. AI can scale with no limit as long as you provide it enough compute. And humans are, well, they're humans. They need to sleep, they need to eat, and there's a finite number of them while you can spin up as many agents as you want. So I don't see that as possible. What does that mean? It means that we will shift the mindset of accountability and we will design systems and even social acceptance and regulations to deal with this new norm. The best example that I can give you is self-driving cars. Everybody can understand that example very easily. If a self-driving car has an accident, who is accountable? Right now, we don't have a good answer, but we will have to have good answers for that because there's zero doubt in my mind this will become the norm in the next 10 years. Meaning our grandkids will look back at us and say, and will be completely shocked that we allowed people to drive. Why? Because people drivers kill over 1 million people a year in car accidents, and we find that acceptable. And I think our grandkids will not find that acceptable because I think with self-driving cars that are connected to one another and to the surrounding environment through data links and smart systems, we'll have very few, if any, accidents. Now, yes, this is not going to be an easy transition, but we will get to a scenario where there are rules and regulations and a level of acceptance of what AI can and cannot do, and humans will not monitor everything that the AI does. So while, again, it's a great role for the transition period, I think the transition period is relatively short. Okay, so let's switch to the second category, which is integration specialists. And they're talking about different kinds of roles, like an AI plumber, AI trainer, AI personality director, AI human evaluation specialist, and I agree with all of those as well. And this is not just the future, this is already happening. I know multiple companies who hire for these roles. 2 of my clients have people in full-time positions who are doing exactly that, who are looking for the places where they can provide more value with bigger projects than just individuals who learn how to use AI can do. And there was a great example this week from the CEO of Quora, Adam D'Angelo, who posted on X, "We are opening up a new role at Quora, a single engineer who will use AI to automate manual work across the company and increase employee productivity. I will work closely with this person." And then he describes the responsibilities like develop and maintain internal tools and systems to automate existing work and increase employee productivity using AI. Use AI as much as possible to automate your own process of creating the software. So not only he is expected to do this for others, he's expected to do it for himself so he can help more people in the company and build more automations and so on and so forth, collaborate with teams across business and understand pain points and so on. This is a lot of what I do for my clients, right? I come in as a partial role of that exact position. I help teams identify how they can automate different aspects of their work, and I help them build the systems, in many cases by training them how to do it themselves. So this is definitely a necessity, and I definitely see this coming. But there's an issue with this position as well. While in the beginning, this is probably going to be the person that everybody wants to work with because he will help departments be more efficient, and he will help take away tedious tasks that nobody likes to do. So everybody will want more time with this person. Again, this is happening to me right now with companies I am working with as I'm helping them automate through different processes. But over time, this person is going to become very lonely and less people will want anything to do with him because the more automation he builds, or he or she, it will eliminate more and more jobs in the company. Because as more and more aspects become automated and not just the tedious mundane jobs that nobody likes to do, it will take away entire positions. And then it will be the person nobody wants to talk to because if you talk to this guy, he will automate you out of a job. But in addition to the personal aspects of the situation, it generates another big question. If one person like this, or 5, or a team of 50 of these are hired, their long-term goal is to quote unquote increase efficiency, which will by definition eliminate jobs. So one person like this can eliminate dozens and maybe hundreds, or a team of such people can eliminate thousands of jobs in the company. So yes, there's a new position that was created, but that position takes away 10x, 100x positions that it actually created. They gave a few other examples, such as in healthcare, having people specialize on making sure that drugs that are generated by AI are compliant with different regulations and safety issues. And in manufacturing, people who are robot integrators and people who are in charge of robots that are working in factories, making sure that their safety and well collaboration with the human infrastructure around them in automation. Well, I have something to say about that as well. As an older teen, when I was 17 years old, I had the opportunity to visit the first fully automated factory in Israel. That was in 1990. That tells you how old I am. Yes. Now, when I say it's a fully automated factory, I mean fully automated. Everything from the supplies are getting picked up at the warehouse, through receiving the goods, to distributing it to the different machines in the factory, to actually doing the tooling, everything in the factory, all the way to the shipping dock was 100% automated by different kinds of robots. It looked like science fiction in 1990. I'm sure it still looks like science fiction in most factories around the world today. And I also had the opportunity to meet the founder and the CEO of the company, Stef Wertheimer. He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the history of Israel, which tells you he's one of probably the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. And he later sold this company to Warren Buffett and the Berkshire Hathaway for $6 billion. But the factory was generating hundreds of millions of dollars per year with just a handful of employees. And what he regularly used to say, half jokingly, is that he's paying those handful of people not to interfere with the robot's work. It's just, this concept isn't new, it's just becoming ubiquitous and much easier to create in both white collar and blue collar jobs. So the idea of having a few people managing a very large operation was possible, even though not common, 40 years ago. But now it becomes available for everything, including white collar jobs. So connecting it to the previous point, there's going to be a few people with highly relevant expertise that will be able to run huge, large, complex operations that will not require a lot of people. The last topic that they're talking about is creative side of things. They're saying creative is not going away, it's just shifting. So designers won't vanish. They will just evolve into storytellers and designers and world builders that will be able to steer the AI to drive relevant company outcomes. Again, I agree 100%. I said that multiple times on this podcast that I think AI will drive explosion in creativity, because now people who have creative ideas that do not have the skills to implement the ideas can now do this across multiple aspects of creativity. But then again, one visionary who is a good storyteller and a good creative can replace an entire department of marketing and creative people that do that work today. The way they define it is AI may replace craft, but amplify creativity. And I agree with that 100%. They're saying it's like Pixar. Pixar shifted from frame by frame hand drawing to computer animation and completely transformed the world. That didn't take jobs away. It actually created a lot more jobs because there were a lot more cartoons that became highly successful, and it's still happening to this day. However, I shared with you that we just had the first commercial that was aired on the NBA Finals. So a huge audience, prime ad spot that was 100% generated by AI. So one person was in charge of all of it. And I just had the opportunity this week to watch the latest Mission Impossible movie with my son. Now, we stayed at the end of the movie to watch all the credits to see if there's a final scene in the end that's going to hint about the future movies. And spoiler alert, there isn't one, so don't wait. But while we were waiting, which is a few good minutes, thousands and thousands of names roll through the screen. All of them were involved one way or another in generating this incredible movie. And all I could think of while we were sitting there and waiting is, what will all these people do in 10 years? And yes, it's going to be a transition. It's not going to happen overnight. But just like this one ad that was created by one person, creating a full feature movie is something that is coming. A single person will be able to create a 2.5 hour long movie on their own. And yes, it's going to take them months potentially, but it's going to be one person doing this, and it's going to be as incredible as Mission Impossible. And there's zero doubt in my mind that is coming. It's just a matter of time. And yes, there's going to be people, at least in the beginning, that will prefer human actors in the movie. But over time, it will be impossible to tell the difference, and hence, people won't care. And there are going to be, I said that in the previous episode, the next Tom Cruise that is going to be 100% AI, and that people will want to go and watch his or hers movies, but they're just not going to be real. They're going to be 100% AI generated, and you'll be able to do whatever you want in those movies with a very, very small budget. Why? Because somebody who's extremely creative with amazing ideas that will capture people's attention, imagination, whatever you want to make them want to watch the movies, will be able to generate everything else with AI. And the last thing that they talk about that is a side aspect of creativity is taste. And they're basically saying that there's going to be people in charge of the AI's taste in a company. And I really, really like this concept. Now, it's hard to define good taste, but you know it when you see it, right? And they gave a great example in the article. There's a viral 60-minute clip that they're referencing that is an interview with music producer Rick Rubin. And in this interview, Anderson Cooper asks Rubin, "Do you play any instruments?" And Rubin answers, "Barely." "Do you know how to work a soundboard?" "No," Rubin says. "I have no technical ability and I know nothing about music." So then there's a bit of back and forth, and then Cooper asks, "So what are you being paid for?" And then Rubin's give the following answer. "The confidence I have in my taste and my ability to express what I feel has proven helpful for artists." Basically, what he's saying is his understanding of what will be successful, what will capture the imagination and the pockets of the audience, whatever that audience is, what he's being paid for. Meaning, learning how to apply the AI tools to something that is very elusive, which is the needs of your customers, whether it's artistic or the actual physical or data needs of your customers, is something that will be huge. Because if you know how to do that, if you know how to steer the AI to solve the problems of your customers or to connect with them on an emotional level, it will be significantly more successful than the people who are going to use the vanilla version of AI. So a quick summary and final thoughts on this particular topic, and then we have some other job-related insights from several different articles. The first thing, again, 70% of skills will change in the next 5 years. This is insane. It's everything we teach kids from kindergarten to graduate school is going to have to change because the required skills in the job force is changing as well. But that means that reskilling your team, your organization, and yourself are now, not in the future, right now, essential. So I know many of you agree with that, and you're asking yourself, how do you take action? How do you actually do something productive with this knowledge? Well, you have to find a way to take courses or deliver structured training and workshops to your employees if you are in leadership positions. You have to create an AI committee that, among other things, is in charge of continuous training, skilling, and AI education of your team and of your company. And if your company is not providing such things to you, you as an individual need to find the right courses and the right frameworks for yourself to learn how to use AI effectively. Why? Because A, it increases your chances of not losing your job. And B, I mentioned that in previous episodes, the current statistics by MIT is that people who have strong AI skills make 56% more money than peers that do not have these skills in the same positions in the same industries. So at least make more money in the short term, even if it's not going to save your job in the long term. Now, if you're looking for such courses and workshops, this is what we do at Multiply, the company that I'm running. And as a 4-time CEO myself with 2 successful exits, and after growing one of my businesses to over $100 million in sales, I can tell you that just knowing AI is not enough. You have to understand AI and how it connects to business and to scaling in order to provide proper training for business people. Yes, there are hundreds of courses, maybe thousands right now, but you need to find the ones that will drive the highest ROI and will be able to connect this to strong business foundations. And this is exactly what we do at Multiply. Now we have deliver custom workshops to companies large and small all around the world. These are tailored to specific company needs and drive immediate ROI and accelerate the implementation of AI across the entire organization. We also provide courses that anybody can join and that are open to the public. These happen once a quarter, and the next course starts on August 11th. So if you don't want to wait for the next course, which will probably be around November or towards the end of the year, you should join the course in August. And there's a link in the show notes for both these things. To learn more about our workshops, you can just connect with me and book a time with me and discuss your company's specific needs. Or if you're an individual, just go and sign up for the course in August. And now to a second interesting article about AI and how it's not replacing humans yet. This article specifically discussed the fast adoption and its current impact on Wall Street, and more specifically about junior positions of investment bankers. So this article on The Information, which always provides great insights and accurate information, is sharing that while tools like Microsoft Copilot and specific startup that deals with this kind of environments, Rogo and other AI tools, save significant time in research and even in pitch deck creations, but more complex tasks still take many, many hours and require human inputs. So based on the research that they've done, AI is currently improving junior bankers' productivity by 5 to 10%, which is definitely not bad, but more advanced pitch decks and financial models and their analysis require a lot of human input and take hours, and hence cannot be replaced by AI. So what they're claiming is, while it's helping a little bit, it's not a replacement for these positions, and a lot of collaboration is required. And I agree at this immediate point. So this podcast, by the way, is a great example. I spend many hours a week working on every single episode. And it's my ability to read through the articles, find the points that will probably be most valuable to you, connect these points to other articles and things from the past, and make it easily digestible to you is what makes tens of thousands of people listen to this podcast every single month. Now, just collecting the news and reporting on them could be done by AI very easily, but I assume nobody would listen, because it does not provide the value, the context, and the elaboration that I provide from my personal experience and expertise that makes this interesting and relevant to you to consume. It's the same thing across many different jobs and tasks in the world today. So AI cannot do what I do yet. And the key is yet, and I think the same thing goes to the bankers. I think the people who wrote this article and similar articles do not understand what AGI means and how quickly will we get there. So there are many definitions on what AGI is. But the general concept of AGI, those of you who don't know what AGI stands for, it's artificial general intelligence. And what it means to most people is an AI system that can do most human cognitive tasks at least as good as an average human in the same task. What this means is that AGI will be able to replace junior investment bankers. It will be able to replace senior investment bankers, and it will be able to replace almost every person doing a cognitive job in the world. Now, this is the meaning of AGI. And some leading experts, including Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, thinks we'll get there in 2026, which is tomorrow, right? It's just around the corner. So if within a year or 3 years or 5 years, we will have systems who can do everything a human can do at or above human level, it means that the things that AI cannot do right now and requires our involvement will disappear or be significantly reduced. Now, is there still positive signs there? Yes, absolutely. There's short-term good news. The article highlights that the workload on these junior investment bankers are 80 to 100 work hours a week. This is insane. And so the ability to help them in doing some of the tasks and reducing the crazy work hours that they have right now makes absolutely sense for everyone. The question is, what happens is not when it goes down to 50, 60 hours or 40 hours. What happens when it goes down to 10? Then you don't need as many of them, and one person can do the work of 20 other people previously. And I think this is sadly the direction that this is going. Now, connecting this to some other pieces of information, Sam Altman was just speaking on another podcast this week, and he shared again, it's not the first time that he's sharing it, that he believes the future is an AI that is proactive, context-aware assistant that basically knows everything about you. The exact quote was, I think we're heading towards a world where if you want, the AI will just have unbelievable context on your life and give you super, super helpful answers. In previous interviews, he also alluded to an endless context window that will be able to use all that information in an effective way. Now, what does that mean? It means AI that collects every piece of information about you and can pull the relevant piece of information to provide you answers about anything you want, whether it's personal, business, ambitions, learning, anything. On one hand, this could be really awesome. There's obviously a huge questions about privacy and where does that data go and who gets access to it. And going back to Sam Altman's other mentions that this needs to be privileged, just like communication with a lawyer or a doctor, and hence cannot be shared with anybody else unless it's extreme circumstances. And I definitely see a lot of logic if this is the direction that we're going, and if Sam is saying that this is the direction that we're going. But to me, an interesting question, and call it philosophical, but I think it's going to get very practical very quickly, is the same will be true for the organization level. And that organization could be a business, right? So if the AI knows everything about the context and everything every single individual does, there could be a higher tier of AI that can know the aggregate of all of that at the business level. But if it can do that, it can do it to any kind of group of people, including social groups. AI can know everything about what's happening in the town and make the town operations more efficient. And then you can take it to the county level and to the country level, and if you want, global society level with enough compute. Now, I know this sounds a little foo-foo, and I literally was just thinking about it in the past few days, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. AI algorithms are getting better all the time. The cost is now 1% what it was a year ago to run the same amount of AI. And in addition, we're building more and more compute. So with more compute and significantly more efficient AI, we will get to the point there will be enough compute to do what Sam is saying, have all the information about every single individual that chooses to be a part of that. That means that on the aggregate level, we can know everything as well if we are willing to provide, let's say, anonymized information to the next level up. I think in a company, you won't even have an option. I think in a society, you'll be able to opt in and opt out of that. But I think the benefits are going to be immense, that it will be very hard to opt out. This could turn into an amazing utopia where everything just happens in perfect order and timing. This could also be 1984 by George Orwell, and it just depends whether we as humanity push this in the right direction or in the wrong direction. And we have, I think, a 50-50 chance of getting it right and getting it wrong. But I do see that as a very logical path that I haven't heard anybody talking about. But again, just running the numbers and running the trajectory of where everything is going right now, I fear or excited about, and both actually, that this is where we're heading, maybe not in the next 5 years, but in the next 2 decades. But to bring us back to here and now versus a potentially completely crazy foo-foo kind of future, in an article in Fortune magazine, they shared some additional insights from Sam Altman about how he sees AI performing tasks right now. And I'm quoting, in some sense, AIs are like a top competitive programmer in the world now, or AI can get to a top score on the world's hardest math competitions, or AI can do problems that I'd expect an expert PhD in my field to do. So this is a quote from the Uncapped podcast, which Sam participated in and was just recently released. But what he's basically saying is that AI right now in specific fields, in specific tasks, can outperform most people. And the first thing it's hitting is obviously entry-level jobs. So the unemployment rate for bachelor degree graduates jumped to 6.1% in May of 2025, so basically right now, from 4.4% in April. That's a 50% increase in 1 month. And that's just the average. In fields like commercial art, graphic design, and computer engineering, the rates are above 7%. And this is information from the Federal Reserve Bank, not some unknown publication somewhere. Now, in this interview, Sam stays optimistic, like he is in every interview that I heard him talk about this or asked about this. And he's saying, and I'm quoting again, a lot of jobs will go away, a lot of jobs will just change dramatically, but we have always been really good at figuring out new things to do. As I mentioned many times in the past, when I heard these kind of comments from top leaders in the AI industry, I have two serious issues with that. One is, what are these things? He and people like him, like Dario and so on, never actually provide tangible examples. Now, yes, they may not be able to think about it, but I think they need to, because they're the ones that are driving us in that direction. Now we can go back to the New York Times article and think about the 22 things they suggested. But many of these things that they suggested will not be required at the same scale of the jobs they're going to take away. And as I mentioned, some of them will be in place in order to take other jobs away. So this is still puts us as a very bad net outcome when it comes to how many jobs AI will create versus take away. And this is really, really scary. The other aspect is obviously every previous revolution allowed us to do more with our brain and less physical job. And this is the first revolution that goes after our thinking capacity, the brain capacity that we have. And I'm not sure what we're going to replace it with. Maybe, like some of these articles suggest, our emotional intelligence and our creativity will be the next frontier that humans will focus on while AI will do the actual tasks. How does the world look like in that situation? How do everybody makes money? I'm not 100% sure, but I guess we'll have to figure it out in the next decade or so. Another organization that shared a very interesting article this month is an organization called the 80,000 Hours Organization, and their article is labeled How Not to Lose Your Job to AI, the skills AI will make more valuable and how to learn them. So they did a very large survey, which they just published, as I mentioned, this month, and they're claiming that based on this survey, professionals who excel in problem solving, strategic thinking, and emotional intelligence will thrive in roles that complement AI's capabilities. So as we mentioned before, if you have these skills and you know how to use AI, which is a prerequisite to the outcome, you are very likely to be successful in the AI era because you're adding to the AI what it is lacking, at least right now. So 67% of AI experts that were surveyed in the study share that they believe human oversight will be essential for high-stakes decisions by 2030. Skills like brainstorming and artistic expression are going to be critical as AI struggles to replace human originality. And again, I think as of right now, I think this will change as well. So large-scale design, storyboarding, and brainstorming ideas and coming up with strategies is things that can be enhanced with what AI can do, and hence will be more significant in the future. Emotional intelligence and communication are also mentioned as very important skills, and leadership and collaboration as well. So 72% of global executives shared in a Deloitte survey that they are prioritizing soft skills for future workforce needs. Why? Because the hard skills AI will be able to do, and that makes perfect sense. This article also mentioned potential new careers such as AI ethics advisors, regulatory specialists, and things around the relationship between AGI and human values in the human world will become norm. The problem is obviously how many of those we actually need in every single organization. And they have a really cool table that summarizes a lot of what they're saying, that has specific skills, why they're valuable, and how to start doing them. And the skills that they're mentioning are using AI to solve real problems, which is exactly what I teach in my courses and my workshops. Personal effectiveness, which is how to increase your own personal productivity that will allow you to do even more for your organization. Leadership skills, communication, and taste. We talked about taste in the other article as well. Getting things done in government, and complex physical skills. And when they say complex physical skills, they're adding, especially for specialists work in unpredictable environments. So AI robots will be able to do amazing things in a confined, well-defined environment like a factory, but you put them out in the field or in a setup where it's not clear what's going to happen, and they will struggle, again, at least in the beginning. They also shared a very interesting statistics from another organization called EPOCH, EPOCH, AI, gate economic model of AI automation. And what they're predicting based on their models, and it's a lot of algorithms that are running a lot of information. That organization has a lot of other AI related statistics that they're sharing. But in this particular chart, they are anticipating what's going to happen to wages, average wages, because of AI usage. And they're showing that initially it will grow tenfold, meaning those people who will know all these skills on how to use AI and drive a lot of value to their company will be able to make 10x more money that they're making right now. And if you look at the graph, it becomes steeper and steeper all the way to about 2035. Then it starts to level off. But then towards the end of the next decade, so in like 2038, it goes down to zero. So there's an exponential increase, then there's a slowdown, and then there's a cliff that wages go down to as we figure out how to let AI do, well, everything that we're doing right now. This is about a decade away from now, meaning they anticipate that, yes, people with AI skills, which, as I mentioned, you need to take care of yourself and of your organization if you're in leadership position, will make significantly more money in the next decade. Awesome. But then the salaries of everyone basically goes down to zero based on what they anticipate. And how does the world operate then? I don't know, but we got to start figuring this out. And in addition, this particular graph doesn't touch about all the people who did not develop advanced AI skills and are not going to make 10x and just going to lose their jobs in the process between now and that time. And these people are the people who make right now $80,000 to $500,000 a year. And these are the people who drive the economy. And if 20-30% of them are out of a job, what happens to the global economy? That's also a question that nobody, I think, has an answer to right now. And another interesting data point that was released this week is a study from the National Association of Productivity Analysts, NAPA, NAPA, reveals that 68% of professionals are adopting AI to escape repetitive workplace tasks. And the findings highlight growing reliance of people on automation tools, including ChatGPT and tools like Zapier, to boost efficiency, with some employees citing 30% time savings on average. In the people they surveyed, ChatGPT leads with 52% of users, and Zapier followed second with 38%, then Microsoft Copilot with 29%. Young workers are significantly more likely to use these kind of tools, and employees between the ages of 18 to 34 account for 78% of AI advanced adoption. Now, 55% of respondents seek AI skill workshops and courses, which is still relatively low in my eyes. I find these numbers, again, I didn't do the research. I don't know exactly who they surveyed. I can tell you that I speak on a lot of stages, and every time I speak on a stage, I ask the same question. Which bucket would you put yourself in? Are you a total beginner, meaning you heard of ChatGPT, you may have used it once or twice, but you're not really using it regularly? Bucket number two is you're using tools like ChatGPT regularly, but you still don't have any business application for it. Number three is I'm a beginner business user. I have several different use cases in which I use AI regularly at my work. And number four, I am an advanced user with well-defined processes, integrations, deployments, and so on across multiple aspects of my business and my business day-to-day job. And still, I've done this past Friday on an audience of an alumni of an MBA program, meaning most of them are in senior leadership position. About 70 to 75% of people self-identify as one of the two buckets. So I do not understand, and I do this in front of a huge variety of audiences. More senior, less senior, multiple industries, multiple places around the world. And it's the same thing every single time, unless I'm going to a more technical audience, and then the numbers are obviously significantly higher. So I do not understand how this study found that 68% of workers automate their work into a 30% increase in efficiency. I see that as a very niche audience that actually is at that point, but this is the direction that it is going. If you do not know how to do that, whether it's 68% of the audience right now or 20, it will be 100% within 2 years. And so if you're there first, you have a much higher chances of keeping your job and being valuable to your employer or to yourself. And if you're not, you may find yourself in a much more difficult situation. So definitely, whether you're going to take my course or somebody else's, make sure you're getting AI skilled and that you know how to use it to drive efficiency to the stuff that you're doing and for the people around you. And from the individual level, there's another interesting point about the enterprise level. IBM has just released an update on how they see their clients using AI in the enterprise level, and they report a 40% increase in enterprise AI since 2023. And they're also saying it comes across industries and sizes of companies. And they provide a few interesting data points. 60% of IBM clients use large language models for automated support, cutting response time by 35% on average. They're talking about Pfizer and how they're using it for drug discovery, driving a 25% efficiency boost. 45% of enterprise, they're saying that these enterprises use a mix of open source and proprietary large language models, with 70% of their clients using this hybrid strategy. This makes a lot of sense to me because open source, while it doesn't provide the same edge capabilities as the closed source tools, they provide data privacy that you can run within your organization, and also flexibility to do things cheaper or focus on specific topics that you can train the AI on. So it makes perfect sense to me. And they are stating something that I see with each and every one of my clients is that the biggest challenge companies have is matching the right AI tools to the right use cases. There is no one size fits all. I can tell you that with all the companies and all the individuals that I work with, whether in my courses or the companies that I consult to, you have to learn how to continuously evaluate the AI tools and match them to the relevant tasks in your organization. And this has to happen through an AI committee. So not every single individual does it on their own, because otherwise you get complete chaos. But defining and creating a mechanism that does this ongoing will drive increasing efficiencies over time. This is the end of part 1 of this week's news episode. In this section, we just covered the deep dive components of the news for this week. The second part, which you can watch in the next episode, covers the rapid fire, lots of smaller pieces of news that you need to know this week. So if you have the time right now, just jump to the next episode and watch it. If not, you can watch it later. But either way, it's definitely worth watching.